Change Detection is a free and open source self-hosted application that will do web page change detection, website watching, restocking, and price monitoring with various notifications. Now, I know I did a video a couple of months ago, or it was about a year ago, on a product called Distill.io, a very similar product, but that was now not an open source product. At the time I was using it, I've just come up against a couple of limitations. They do fairly similar things, but the difference obviously is things like what you can get to use on the free version of Distill, which is only about 5 cloud watch monitors, I think, in their cloud, which is quite nice. At least you get 5 free watches. And I think it was about 25 or so offline. But it uses then your web browser extension. So if you've closed your web browser down or your computer down, well, then you've got no monitoring. So you really are limited to those 5 free ones that you have in the cloud to be running 24/7 to check for whatever you want to check. Obviously, the difference again with change detection is you can do a lot more on this as a free and open source self-hosted version. Don't let the self-hosting put you off. I'll explain just now, and I've probably neglected to talk about this in the past when I've covered some of these products. But let's dive in a little bit and just sort of see what it actually does. If we look at some of the features that change detection specifically has got, well, obviously privacy, because you're self-hosting it. It's on your own hardware or on your VPS or Pi or whatever the case is. So only you've got access and control to it. There is an optional cloud hosting as well for change detection itself, which is $8.99 per month versus Distill's one, which starts at $15 per month. So there's already, quite a considerable cost difference. So if you're not all into self-hosting and privacy is not your big issue and you want paid solutions, well, then Distill is probably still going to give you a much cheaper and a better offering. The other thing there is, well, it runs 24/7 on a VPS or a Pi. So I've mentioned there already that this is not determined by whether your browser is open or closed. But it does not only have to run on a VPS. And I should have emphasized this before. Quite a few of the solutions that I've spoken about that are Docker containers, they will actually quite happily run, well, they can even run on a desktop that stays connected and switched on, or a laptop on your network. But it could even just be a Raspberry Pi device. It installs in a fairly similar manner using Docker, and you can have the same application just running 24/7, consuming very little electricity, in fact, at the same time. So just bear that in mind. This does not require you to have a server or a VPS. Change detection will also do either a visual type detection or a HTML code detection, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail when we dive into the product a bit further. Then it will look for web page changes, and it can do any changes. In other words, the entire page, or you can select one or more specific areas. Typically, I use it for prices, so I will click on the sort of just the price and say to it, just keep an eye on the price changes for me. That's the one option. The other thing it's got is quite interesting, is restocking and price changes. Now, this, as I've mentioned here on the right, and I'm going to mention it every time I come to it, it requires a website with LD-JSON price metadata. It's a sort of a standard that's used that means these types of products can actually read and interpret pricing specifically from the website code, not visually. And for example, Amazon doesn't use that. So there's a request log that change detection finds a way around that, say specifically for Amazon. But I have noticed, for example, in South Africa, that Clicks, which is a pharmacy chain, their prices actually do comply with this. So I'll be able to at least show that to you and show you how it works. But there are some specifics that you can do around that. It'll check for only items in stock price changes, or it will check when an item comes back into stock. So it can check between in stock and out of stock and differentiate. And you can also set up various triggers and that sort of thing based on the price changes. In other words, when it hits a specific price above that or a specific price below it, or by a change of more than so many %. So you've got a fair bit of flexibility if the price data is available. Then obviously you've got notification of changes in various different sort of options, and I've listed a couple at the bottom here by email, and then also inclusive of a price, push notifications, Discord, and a couple of other options. But also interestingly is when it sends you an email, you can also ask it to attach a screenshot of the latest change. The screenshot's not going to show you the differences, but it will just attach, so you don't have to go to the website itself. You can just open the mail, check the screenshot and see, okay, interesting, that's something I want to go get. Then something else quite interesting is you often find this problem as well with, well, not CAPTCHAs, that's going to be a different problem, and there is a way that it can be solved. I've not really had so much of a problem with CAPTCHAs, but you will find sometimes some sites you want to go and have checks done on. I've got a pop-up screen, possibly a login screen, and a few other basics like that. Well, you can actually, I've got a sort of a trick or workaround. I'm using its interactive browser steps, which is a function inside change detection, to then do the login or to dismiss those pop-ups or banners. So that is something also quite sort of handy. And then there is quite a lot of trigger filters that can be set up and configured, as well as regex type queries that can be run. I'm no expert on regex or even CSS, for example, but if you've got that sort of knowledge, you can dive a lot deeper with this product as well. You don't need it for the basics though, like I'm using it for. Then you can also schedule by time zone. So if, for example, you're living in Europe and you want to watch for specific specials or events or something happening, say in the USA, you can set that for whatever the time zone is, the USA as well, and it will obviously then do it for those specific times. So those are really just sort of the key features that to me stand out for this particular product. Let's just then go and have a look what you would actually use this for, because I think this is now the nitty-gritty of, do you use it or don't you use it? You know, is it something of interest for you? There's a couple of things actually here. So obviously I've put at the top there when your favorite whiskey or other is on sale. So things like whiskey are quite expensive items, and if you're after that fantastically expensive office chair, it doesn't have to only be Black Friday specials or Christmas specials that you're watching out for. With a product like this, you set it and you forget about it, and it's going to notify you in the middle of March or in the middle of June or whatever the case that, hey, your whiskey is 20% off. I've even found, for example, on Takealot, which is an online sort of call it a Amazon in South Africa, online shopping site, I did actually find once there was an error made, and change detection did notify me, and I ordered 3 of that product quickly because I got it at a radically discounted price. Those things are generally not going to happen often, but there are definitely specials during the year that you're going to miss out on otherwise. So take a bit of trouble, set up your favorite products, and you'll be surprised. This can actually save you quite a bit of money. The other one I did sort of allude to already as well was this out of stock notification and back in stock. You'll find that I was looking for a product. I was actually trying to find ammunition at one stage, and it was not that easy ammunition to get hold of. And there was some trouble during the lockdown, which meant there was no stock in the country. And I just needed to know, like, when is this stuff actually come back into stock again? So, you know, you can set those type of notifications as well, and it will let you know if the product suddenly comes into stock 2 or 3 months later. Then what I'm actually using it for as well specifically is our local ratepayers have got a website where they have got a constitution, and they update and they change things from time to time. As does our local municipality. They've got notices and various things on their website as well. Now, I want to know about changes as they happen. I want to know, first of all, what was changed on those pages, and then I've got the screenshot from before as well as afterwards to be able to take up the issue if there's something sneaky going on. You know, somebody has just sneakily changed the constitution wording, or added a comma, or, you know, there's a notice of something and it just gets deleted before the time, or whatever the case is. So very, very useful for keeping an eye on your local government or your ratepayers or your landlord pages or whatever the case is. Then also obviously festivals and events. There are changes that take place. There's price changes, various things. So again, if there's something that you really need to keep an eye on, set up something like this for that. Similarly for real estate listing changes, price reductions of houses or apartments on sale, or anything similar to that. Again, it'll snapshot those changes for you. So if it's something important you need to watch. You can also monitor HTML source code for unexpected changes. So if you do a change and you're watching a particular web page, it could be your company web page, it could be a marketing web page, it could be anything. This will also let you know of any specific background changes that take place in the source code, and it'll highlight for you in red and green what has actually changed. So something that may be of interest to you. If you've got sensitive URLs you want to watch, well, how do I describe sensitive URLs? Things you don't want to be seen checking all the time. I don't know. I'm not too sure. It's not something I really have to watch, but all I want to say is you can set up whatever URLs you want to keep an eye on, and it'll keep an eye on them for you. in the background without you having to go to them. Also, when companies update, for example, their careers changes, if you're searching job portals for keywords, all those sort of things, you can also set up these sort of things to keep an eye on those websites as well. I mean, why do it manually if you can set up and automate the whole process sort of for you? Then website defacement monitoring is also important. If you've got a website, a homepage, for example, that you maintain, and you're not on it every single day, you can also set up this to keep an eye on it. It'll notify you immediately that something has changed on that web page, and you can then quickly go and, if somebody's, maybe it's happened to me once, I've had a website actually defaced. I didn't have this product going at the time, but it is something now that I keep an eye on my web page, because you don't want it to stand there for days on end and causing embarrassment and you're not even knowing that it's been defaced. Then things like Pokemon card restock tracker. Well, I don't play Pokemon, but I understand it's something to do with cards that become available suddenly, and there's a certain amount and you need to get them then, I think, or something, or they're out of stock and they come in stock. Well, this, and similarly for other games and things, if there's a web page to watch, you can keep an eye on it. I mean, I think it comes to mind now, War Thunder, every now and again they have specials on some of their premium vehicles. Watch this vehicle, you'll be able to grab that thing when it comes up on a special in 9 months' time, if necessary. And then lastly, sort of one of the other reasons that to me was quite interesting is regulatory type changes. So if there are government acts or legislation or other bylaws and various things you need to keep an eye on, this is going to notify you as well, even if it's just a request for comment that's being sent out. But if a particular law changes that you need to be keeping an eye on, or anything similar to that, again, this is going to be ideal for that sort of thing. So, there's lots of things you can use it for. I only use it for a few of the first couple of things myself, but the sky's the limit probably on this for what it can do. We're going to go into the demo then that's going to sort of make things a little bit clearer, and you can just see how it works really. I'm going to start off with the HTML visual select filtering. That's sort of the one aspect of how and what this thing does. And then I'll just look quickly at the stock and the pricing side of things. And then I'll go around the menus and the settings as usual. And I'll end off also with a couple of just tips or sort of lessons that I've learned that have made using this a bit easier, and one or two things that I did get stuck on. So let's dive into the product and have a look at it. Okay, so this is what change detection is going to look like when you've got a couple of products loaded. You can see just running around it quickly. Top left is its name, and that's also where you click to go back to home to get back to the screen. This is obviously where you're going to enter your new link. You can add a watch label or tag, and this is these down here. The reason why is you can then click just on whiskey or gadgets or whatever to go and sort of choose your product. And that's where you would just click a straight watch for the whole page, or you'd click over there for the edit and watch. I'll go through those just now anyway, a little bit later. This is where you would actually add the groups and the tags. The settings will come to a bit later. The import is where you will import from Distill and one or two other products. You can back up all your links over there as well, log out, change the between light and dark over there, donate money, go to their GitHub page, or of course you can click over here if you want to do their hosting as well. But let me just start before we dive into the two types over here. Maybe let me just show you what something looks like. If you go down here and you look at the various products that I've got, you're going to see a couple of things on this page. You can obviously pause or switch off notifications as well over here if you want to. There's a short little title for each one that just tells you what it is. It's got a little link over there to jump to the page if you want to go to it. This is quite an interesting one. You can also create a link to share this config with others. So if you've set up a very good watch link here, instead of trying to explain to somebody else how to do it and so on, you can literally just click over here. It creates it on Change Detection's own website, that sort of as a public link. And you share that link with someone and they can import it directly into their change detection, and it should sort of then work for them. The little Chrome symbol here just indicates this is a visual watch, and it's using the Chrome browser to do that. And then of course there's the little tag. You'll see the price one down here indicates price. So those will be the two different ones I was talking about. And it says there, automatically following embedded price information. It tells you when it was last checked, when the check was done. I'm just doing every 24 hours. And it tells you also when the price last changed over here, and you can sort obviously on that as well. And then you can click for a recheck. You can edit the actual watch list and the config for this one, and you can go look at the history. Now, the history is where you're going to go to have a look at the price changes and what's happened. So if, for example, you've got a notification, and sometimes it will actually highlight and show you the change in the email, and it might have attached the screenshot. But if you click and you come through to the site, now you want to go and have a bit more of a detailed look. This is where you're going to come to. And you would go to history to go and look it up. Let's just take a plain web page, I think, as an example. I've got this WinLink Wednesday website, which gets updated sort of once in a while. It's a ham radio page. So if I go to history, it's a good example of showing you what a difference looks like here. So if you look up at the top here, you'll see it's going to be comparing the previous snapshot, which was on the 10th of August, with the one on the 19th of August when the last change was. You can obviously change these. You can compare between other snapshots if you want to as well. But you'd click go, and all it's really going to show you here is that what is in green is what was most recently added. This is my web page that I updated. In fact, I remember now. So these were additions I made to the site. And if you look over here, for example, what was in red is what I changed to what is now in green. So the green is the current version, and the red was the previous version. So you can see that it says removed if you hover over it, and inserted. And it does that. These were all insertions also that I made. And if we go further down, there was a couple of other changes I made at the end of the page as well. So that is how you will actually be able to compare specific snapshots to see what exactly has changed in green and red. You've also got the screenshot over here. There literally is a screenshot of the web page as it is now, the last change. And you can also extract the data and save it as a CSV. Yeah, that's basically the comparison check. And obviously I'm doing it at the moment on a line check at the moment, but you could even check down to the individual words that have changed, or down to characters, JSON code, etc. as well. The jump over here is just going to take you directly to each change if it's a very, very long page. The other thing that's of interest is just up at the top left over here where it says show current snapshot, visualize triggers and ignored text. So if you click on that, you'll see it actually gives you an option over here now for using your arrow key to go to next. And the reason why is, if we just go down a little bit, there were some changes I think around here somewhere. So if I use the arrow key now and I go arrow right, it changes to that previous snapshot. And if you click it again, it goes to the snapshot before that. And you'll see at the top left, it is saying here 4 months ago. So if I go left again, oh, I actually haven't made changes for quite a while. But you can see some of the changes taking place there as I'm moving. So I was actually watching this page while I was busy editing and updating it. So it shows you as well, if there's a price change, you could also use this left and right over here to flip between them and have a look at them. I'll just find something here that is watching just a price so you can get an idea of what it actually does. I just don't have a lot of price changes because I had to make a few fixes and I've lost a few of them. For some reason, the prices haven't changed for the last little bit. I think one that will be a good one we can actually have a look at here, just to show you where if you're just highlighting visually a specific piece of the screen, which is say the price change you want to watch, we can take maybe this one, Take a Lot, 3 Ships 5-year premium whiskey. Now this is not a price ready screen, so this is a plain old visual screen that we're looking at. If we click on history, the first thing you're going to notice over here is, well, it's doing a snapshot between the 9th of December to the 26th of December. And if you just look a bit closer there, you'll see the immediate difference is this was priced at 225 rands and it became 229 rand a week ago. And again, we can have a look at, the screenshot as well if we want to. But I think let's take this current snapshot, jump to it, and you'll see now what it's showing you here is a week ago, we know it changed to 229. If I click the right arrow now, it's going to show you there 3 weeks ago it was 225. Click it again. A month ago it was 189. That was on special when I bought a couple of bottles. and you go right again. It was at 225, 195, and so on. So you can get an idea actually of how the prices change. You can always see, is the special you're getting a really good special, or was it even cheaper at some point? But that is in essence how you can scroll quickly back and forth if you're just looking at a visual item that you're watching the price for. So I think let's go and have a look then at how you'd add a new item. So you'll see here, when you put your link in, let's just click a link there. I'll put any old link in. This is just a shopping link from Takealot for a particular product. So I'd obviously just say there it is shopping. Just remember here though that you have to choose one of his existing tags. If you want to add a new tag, you'd have to go to groups up the top there and just add it. And then I normally go to edit watch over there, and you'll see here, now you can see the URL up there. It is defaulting at the moment here. I see to restock and price. I'm going to make this a web page text, HTML or JSON PDF change check. You can give it title here to say, I'm just going to say test so I can delete this again, test coffee. You've got the group tag already. You've got a couple, you'll see in the menus over here, you can set a couple of global settings. So typically I just have got checking once a day, once every day or every 24 hours, but you can override that here and go down to minutes and seconds if you want to, or you can set a time scheduler as well if you want to, for specifics here to really sort of fine tune it. You can tell it to otherwise extract the title from that page or document to use automatically as the title, and you can tick on to send a notification when the filter can no longer be found on the page. If there's an error or something like that, it defaults to on, so I would leave that if I was you. Then essentially you're going to go to the next side. Mine is defaulting to use the Chromium browser. Obviously the plain text is going to be a quicker option, but you're also going to find that this is where you have to maybe then either use some of your own code and request headers to set this up properly, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But for those that have got the knowledge, this is actually quite a nice sort of advanced option to use really. But if you just set it for basic fast plain text, it's going to check the whole page. This is where you'd be able to, if you've got the coding knowledge, you could do some specific queries to work with it. I generally use this one, the Playwright Chromium JavaScript, which is a visual selector. So, choose that over there. If the page allows for the restock price detection, you can set it over here. Now, in essence, what you've got up at the top here is only check it while it's in stock. In other words, while it's out of stock, don't give me even price change notifications or anything else because I'm not interested. The other one is any availability changes. So this will be whether it comes in stock, out of stock, price changes, whatever. And the other one is going to be, don't just ignore restock, just only follow prices. And there you can also turn prices on or off, and you've got a few basic triggers here that you can set up. Just remember, this is going to be determined as well whether that website is supporting the correct format for the pricing. Then the browser steps can be of interest. I don't set this in the beginning, but if I find that the page is not accessible because there's a pop-up message or something else has got to be got rid of, this is where I would come to actually sort that out. And what you really do is, typically the first step is always going to be going to the site. So you don't really have to do anything with that, but I just click over here to get it going, to bring the site up, and then we'll see what happens. Does it come up with a login screen? Has it got a pop-up? Or what is it? What actually appears? Okay, this one doesn't really have a pop-up. But if there was a pop-up, what I would then do is I would say to it, either check a checkbox, click in a particular place, click an element containing text or whatever the case is over here, or just press enter or whatever. Often what happens is if there's a pop-up, I will actually just go to wherever the pop-up is and do the click, and you'll see there it's already put in a click at XY. That's the coordinates. And then you just say apply, and anytime the page is being checked, it's going to always click in exactly that spot, and that will be the place, for example, where you'll use to dismiss a pop-up message or a accept cookie message or something like that. So you can obviously go through a whole bunch of different options here, like including scrolling down and various other things to reproduce manually clicking or scrolling or doing whatever you have to do to dismiss things. So just remember, that's quite a useful little thing to have. Okay, I'm going to actually just remove this because I don't really want it to click things here. Then you'll go onto your notifications. You could turn them off, but by default they're going to be on. You can tick also, I'd recommend you tick on to attach a screenshot to notification where possible. So you can use these macros to automatically in the email put the watch title, notification body. You can put various other details telling you what page it is and so on and so forth. Generally, you can leave this exactly as it is. The default will work probably fairly well, but if you get to know it better, you can do a few things here. Then the other thing is you set up your notifications obviously in the settings over here. I've got mine set up for email and Telegram and that sort of thing, but you can also just click here to send a test notification just to make sure your notifications are working and what they will actually look like. So if you also make a few changes here to the code or the description of the notification title, use the send test notification to test it. And clicking over here is going to show you some debug logs. Then the only other thing is you can also choose the format of the notification. I think this is, it's for all notifications, but you can choose HTML color to render it, and it shows you the changes in the red and green, for example, or markdown or just plain text or whatever the case is there. And the stats won't show yet because we haven't actually got this page going. Now, before we do the visual trigger, we first need to save this page and then we'll come back. So I'm just going to click at the bottom here, the save option. And I think if we go to the bottom, you'll see there's test coffee. And if you look there, it'll say there it's queued at the moment. And it hasn't yet checked. And there's also not been any price change yet as of now. I'll let that run in the background a bit because we need to come back to it just now to go and do that visual check to tell it where to look for the price. So while we're waiting, let's just have a look so long quickly at what a price change looks like if you were to have got a notification. So I've already shown you here at the moment, it's telling us that well, let me do this one because this one is actually quite well rendered. This is clicks for a moisturizing cream. It does show that it's in stock at the moment, and it's shown a price in ZAR, which is South African rands, and it was last checked 4 hours ago. Oh, hasn't got a price change yet. Okay, that's a bit sad, but let's go to preview, and you'll see there, all it's really telling us at the moment is that it was a month ago. The price hasn't changed, unfortunately, but in stock is true, and the price is $279, and you can also get a screenshot of what the price last was when it had a price, well, when it registered the price, should I say. Typically here, you see these are things where I could have registered with those browser steps to click the OK button, but it doesn't really affect at this stage this particular one. So that's really what a price change looks like. There's not very much to look at. You'll notice also here that the Amazon ones that I've got here, it is showing stock, but it's not detecting the price. So that will be something quite nice if it actually comes up and is able to do that. I think let's just refresh this quickly and see. Okay, there we go. It's done a check 52 seconds ago. And I'm going to now go to edit, the edit button at the bottom here. And we've done most of this already. What's of interest really to us at the moment is the visual filter selector, because we haven't yet told it what to look for. You'll see there's two new tabs that have come up, the visual selector as well as filters and triggers. So if we click on the visual selector, all you're going to do now is just click on the things that you want to keep an eye on for a change. So, I mean, you could actually click on in stock over here if you wanted to. So whenever that changed from in stock to out of stock, that would anyway also trigger a change, even though this is a visual check and it's not doing an actual price stock change. It's just telling you that there is a change. Typically what I generally use is mostly just the price. You'll see, so it has highlighted the price. And that really is all I actually need. And I'll say there, save. Let me just go back to it again. That is now set. We can just have a quick look at filters and triggers. Again, now this for the visual check, it's a bit beyond me. I have really not yet spent the time getting to know all the stuff, but I mean, you can do the CSS and the JSON path code checks. You can use it to write something here to extract just specifically what you're looking at. The visual selector is doing it for us automatically at the moment. So generally, you're not going to need this filters and triggers, but I'm just showing you could do it if you wanted to. You could strip out certain elements. You've got a few things here to, look out for replaced lines or not, or removed lines. Only trigger when unique lines appear in all history. So there's a couple of other things you can set up. It's definitely for more advanced usage. And at the bottom, they give you a whole lot of very nice examples here of what you can do for extracting text, how to extract text and so on. So the block change detection while the text matches, and they give you again a couple of samples or examples to put in here: out of stock, sold out. Sorry, you can't see that very clearly. Not in stock, unavailable, or whatever the case is as well there. So as I said, I'm not really going to go into that because I can't explain it in detail. But in essence, that is really it. If we go to stats now, again, we're not going to see much. It does. What is a useful indicator here is just to show you that it did take 55 seconds to do the last fetch. And if you find that it is timing out too quickly before it actually gets the check properly done, you can go to your request. I've got a default set already for 20 seconds, but you can actually increase that here if you needed to like, a minute or 2 or 3 minutes before it does any of this filtering and reading. So that is where you would do that if you need to. Let's just go back to the page. We can just quickly have a look. Where's our test coffee thing? Oh, it's at the top. You'll see it is bolded at the moment as well, which means that it's detected a change. Remember, we've just registered this, so the change really is it's just got the first page. That's really all. But if you go to history now, you'll see it's really all just going to be in red at the moment because there aren't any changes yet. This will be your baseline, your snapshot that it'll test against next time when it does pick up any changes. Obviously, the screenshot is going to be there and the extract data. And that really is about all you can see. What I'll just show you if you're interested is, let me just pop up here on the screen then what a typical email or two would look like that you get. And you'll be able to see there that there is sort of some highlighted red and green text. So you can quickly get a visual idea of, should I go now look further at this particular page or product, or let me just delete the email. I'll wait for the next notification because this isn't really relevant to me. So, you can tweak and play around also with the emails and the detail that gets sent to you, but this is what I receive before I go and have a look really. And that really sort of is pretty well much the notifications and how to set up the basic checks. We can actually just have a quick look at setting up a price change. It's not going to be very much different, and we don't really have a decent site to use this with at the moment. But just to say to you, if we did use this restock option, that would have been not the web page check. Now, in other words, the restock option, you'll see this is pretty well much the same actually. The only difference is going to be that this tab, and it's a nice simple tab really, no coding or programming. You again just choose your in stock or any availability, or I don't want to follow the restock. And then again, if price change is relevant to you, you could get it to trigger if the price falls below something, or if the price goes above something, or if there's a greater than percentage change from the original price. Otherwise, your other options up here are again pretty well much the same. If browser steps need to be activated, you've got that, as well as your notifications and your stats. I think what we can maybe just look at is if I've got a page here that's been running a bit. Let me just see if I go to, say, this one whiskey one here. If I go to edit, under stats, you'll see it's had 10 checks already. I'm not sure what the history length is. Last fetch was 136 seconds. It's got one alert that's been sent in the past already. Yeah, that's it. I think we can actually go look at the menus and so on a bit. So groups up there, as I said, this is where you're going to add a new one, or whether you want to have mute notifications for the entire group in one go. You can edit a group as well. It's really just the title and a couple of other sort of defaults for that particular group there. And you can delete it there or unlink it. In other words, it will remove that tag or that label from those various watches if you wanted to get rid of the group or just empty the group, for example. So that's the one thing. Under settings, these will be your default settings for checks. So if you don't change anything, we've seen that already, and we've seen the time scheduler. It's got a random jitter seconds, give or take, check. So it says here, example, 3 seconds random jitter could trigger up to 3 seconds earlier or 3 seconds later. So you can play around with that setting. The number of times the filter can be missing before sending a notification. So sometimes a web page is maybe down for a short period, or it's unreachable, or something else has happened, but you don't want every single time. You want it if it's become a sort of a more permanent disability that you want to be notified of, then you can adjust that as well, or have it on 0 if you want, immediately. You can remove passwords. So I've actually set a password to access my change detection site, although it's not visible to the internet anyway. But this is where you just remove it. Allow access to the view of the diff page when the password is enabled. So if you were sharing your site publicly, you could still let people go and look at your price different page without them being able to make changes or anything else. So it's quite nice. You could even make this public and let other people just sort of keep an eye on certain alerts that you've set up. You can hide the muted watches from the RSS feed. There is a RSS feed in the front bottom right of the long list of your watches. This is just when it changes to more pages instead of the page being too long. So you could, for example, make this a bit shorter and then it'll page, just have 25 watches on the page. You can have the default to extract the title. I prefer to type the title in myself because I will put in things like what the shop or the place is and a few other details that I want, because I want to see that in the email when I get it, and treat empty pages if that makes a change or not. Then on your notification settings, okay, I'll have to obviously blank my email out here because it includes the password. And obviously you can test your notification. This is quite important here when you're busy setting up this email, because sometimes just getting your syntax right and setting up, like I'm actually using a Gmail account for the sending of the notifications. You've got to use a specific app password, a unique app password to get it working. So, while you're messing around and trying to get that to work, it's quite handy to test the notifications. And we have covered this before already over here for things like the defaults that will appear in the email or the Discord notification or Telegram notification. But also of interest is notification for the base URL override. So I have set the URL for my site as well. The idea is supposed to be that if you get it in the email, you can click on the link and it'll obviously open the page up itself. And there are, by the way, quite a few little clickable helps you can drill deeper into on the site as well. Then under the fetching side, you've obviously got your default, which I've put my default on as use the browser. And it gives you a little bit more information here as well about the browser and the rendering and so on. I will also share the Docker Compose file I'm using, because that was a problem I had getting this whole browser thing to work properly, which there's 1 or 2 flavors of the browser and there's some specifics you've got to set up correctly to make it work. So what's in my Docker Compose has been working for the last couple of months quite well for me at the moment. There's your default weight. Again, you can also set a user agent, that the website will see what web browser is visiting that site. And they've got a couple of tips over here. Now, this is actually quite important, and we will have a look at it really when we come to the CAPTCHA proxies up here. So I'm not going to talk about it right now. The global filters is just these tags that we've got here, the remove elements and the ignore text that I talked about a little bit earlier. The API I haven't mentioned yet. I'm not using the API, but you'll see there is some API access. So whether you're writing an application to pull or push, or there is a third-party app, or for example, a mobile app that works with this application, it's this API that you would set up. So obviously now I've blanked out my API key, not that I'm really using it, but you could regenerate that API key if you need to here. The point really being is that that is the API key you would use if you needed that third-party access to be set up. And then there is also a Chrome extension that can be used. So the Chrome extension will, for example, make use of that API key. So if you're going to activate and get that extension to work, you will probably have to just make use of this API key. then we have already sort of seen some of the date or time, but you can actually just here then confirm what is the UTC time at the moment on the server, because remember, it doesn't help you've got and set timed alerts and you're actually not aware of what the system is using. So there's my browser time at the moment that I'm recording this, and that is the server's UTC time and the time zone for the watch schedule. So obviously you would change this here if you want to watch prices in Hungary or London or whatever the case is. Then the other thing was now the CAPTCHAs and the proxies. So there are two services here. So typically, if you want to have CAPTCHAs and you want to make use of proper proxies that will get around CAPTCHAs being popped up, or if that becomes a problem for you, these are two options, Bright Data and Oxy Labs, that can do it for you. Unfortunately, well, they're not free. So there's lots of information here about how to use them and where to get to them and all that sort of thing. I haven't really used them, but you'll see there you can set up additional extra proxies, and I see they have got things like SOX5 and regular proxies with a username and password access as well. Anyway, there's also extra browsers, and they've got links to more instructions and examples as well over there. There's tutorials as well that help you with this. But all I want to say is this is where you can access these. If for example, you're running this now in your work environment and you want a slightly more corporate level or an enterprise level solving for your CAPTCHAs and proxies and that sort of thing, then those are the sort of the two options that you're going to make use of. Then that really is the settings. So we can look at the import options, and there of interest is, I didn't actually use this, but you can import from a plain URL list. If you list them all down over here, or you've got a couple, you'd paste them in here and you just click on import. The interesting one possibly for some is the distill.io, like I did the video about it before. If you've got a whole lot set up there, you may want to export and import those into here. And this is where you'd actually be able to do it. And the other options are the XLSX type file that you can import as well, with mappings and so on as well that you can set up. I think this is really only valid if you've got a real ton of them, I suppose, you want to import. And then backups, well, I've got a backup there, and I can click on that and I could import it again. I think you'd import it over there, but otherwise you can create a new backup or remove backups. So that really is the option. And then it really is just log out and search and changing color and so on. I can just quickly show you at the bottom of the page, there is this link down here to the RSS feed. So if you wanted an RSS feed of your watch list, I haven't actually used it, but I would imagine that the RSS feed will then show you any changes and so on that take place, because I mean the whole point of an RSS feed is showing you changed information, not just statically what you've already got listed. So that really is it. I can just maybe cover a couple of tips quickly, I think, before we wrap up. So really more in summary then, I've covered quite a few of these already actually, but the Playwright Chrome browser part, please look at the Docker Compose link that I'll put below the video. That will show you the exact config for me that is working. So if you need to fiddle around with yours to get it to work, try what I've got, maybe it'll work. And then just to reiterate also that under the price detection and triggers, if it wants to detect the actual price levels and above and below, it needs that LD-JSON price metadata on the website itself. The actual website that you're watching, nothing you can do about that. But if you don't see a price being pulled back, if you try and set that up and you find no price is being seen, then it just means that, okay, that website doesn't have that capability. Then fall back onto using that visual indicator like I've shown. You choose the Playwright browser, you go click on the visual element to watch the price, or the in-stock element that you want to watch for changes. Then you can achieve fairly similar. You can't do maxes and minimums and percentage changes, but it's good enough. It'll do a pretty good job for you. Then also use that interactive browser steps I showed if you need to dismiss any pop-ups or banners that may get in the way of your price checks. And I did say at the beginning there, no server, no problem. You can use just a Raspberry Pi. Anything that's going to run 24/7 that's connected on your network, you could set up with Docker and actually get this to run. And then just lastly, the tutorials. I'll put a link below the video as well. They've got a couple of video tutorials on how to do various things with change detection. So if you still want the online versions, the difference here really is that unfortunately change detection has got 0 free users for their cloud option. So if you do need a cloud option 24/7 and you only need up to 5 watches, maybe try distill.io. And for that, you can look at my previous video. I'll also put a link below this video to that video. That's one option. Distill.io, as I said, its extension will work, but only while your browser is running. And otherwise, change detection should do a pretty good job for most people. And like I said, it's going to run 24/7 free if you host it yourself. Otherwise, their options on their website will be actually, these that you're seeing at the moment. There's a couple of additional, these are some of the additional features that you get if you do a subscription for their cloud-based service. And the pricing that they've got here is $8.99 per month. That obviously means you don't have to self-host, and most of the stuff will all be set up in the background. You'll probably get priority support as well if you really need assistance for setting something up and so on as well. And you can actually include up to 5,000 URLs to be watched. So it's pretty potent. You can do the 5,000 at home as well. But like I said, if you really get stuck, then that is an option. So yeah, I hope it was interesting, and it does provide sort of some alternative and contrast with the distill.io product. And really that is it. I am busy with some really deep dives at the moment into Reticulum and some other interesting messaging networks. I don't know if I'm going to be ready to do a video about that in a month's time. And if I don't, I will probably be doing another general interest video. The ones that I've actually had queued at the moment, this is a matter of interest, is so maybe let me know if anybody's really particularly interested in one of these. I can look at doing one of these next. One is a self-hosted service that keeps track of your various links and does snapshots and backups of them and that sort of thing. It also will, so in other words, it'll become your saving of bookmarks, and it prevents sort of link rot, because essentially you've got snapshots and permanent copies of all these web pages, even if the website disappears. It's sort of like a mini internet archive almost. Then the other one was a scheduler for group schedules. It's called Rally, I think. It was a sort of, if you've got to organize an event and you need a whole bunch of people to get together and give their optional times that they're available or not, and try and select something that suits everybody. That's one of them. Homepage, I think, was a sort of a custom launcher homepage to get to all your links, and it gives you a bit of a preview of certain stats from the links. So for example, if it was watching my RSS feeds, it'd have a little icon showing how many unread feeds I've got, and you can sort of quickly rearrange everything visually as to jump to all your different sites that you either self-host or that you just want to have on quick dial, really. And the other one I was looking at still was, well, there's more than one, but I'm looking at a self-hosted recipe management system. There's things that I want to be able to do with it, so I'll still need to probably in that case evaluate 2 or 3 options that I am looking at the moment. Oh, and then also Joplin for notes, why I've moved off Obsidian Notes and why I'm using Joplin Notes at the moment and self-hosting the sync server. So those are the ones I have sort of got lined up over the next couple of videos. So if there's something of particular interest to you, let me know and I'll see if I can't push that one to the front then. But otherwise, thanks. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.